Am I the a-hole for taking my mother's ultimatum? So I had gotten a job and eventually started making money for myself to save up while I was living with my parents so I could move out eventually. After I got my first few paychecks, I asked my parents to take me to our cell phone provider. They both agreed, and both congratulated me on saving money to buy my own phone. I invited my boyfriend to come along with us, to which he agreed. Now, my dad, being the greatest man alive, paid for half of my phone and told me just to pay him back little by little. That way, I still have money to buy some stuff if I wanted. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and I had finished paying off my dad and still paid for my phone bill myself. This is where my mother comes in. After those weeks, my mother approached me and asked if I could give them just a bit more money than my phone bill to help out with the utilities and such while I was staying there. No big deal. I agreed and started giving about $200 every 2 weeks to pay for my phone and help with the internet and water. After a while at my job, I was fired for missing too many days due to watching my nieces and nephew, while my sister and my mother went out and did errands. They would stay out almost 8 hours a day pretty much every day, and it would consistently make me late for work that got wrote up twice because of it. So eventually the company let me go. I keep watching my nieces and nephew, and eventually got a new job at a smaller retail chain store. I still was paying the same amount of money while I was getting almost half as much in salary, and was paid weekly, which was leaving me with about $80 for the rest of the week. But after a few months, I was getting more and more frustrated with my mother. We were always having fights, and at each other's throats and screaming at each other. I always asked her why she wanted almost all of my money that I worked hard for. She would always just say, "You live under my roof, you will do as I say." This caused a major communication issue with us. So I told her I wasn't watching my nieces and nephew, so that way I could actually sleep so I could stay awake while working my third shift job. Cue the ultimatum. She berated me and told me that you can either give me money, stay here and watch your nieces and nephew while me and your sister do some errands, or you can get the hell out of my house. Then she left and went to the store. Needless to say, I chose to leave. I had all my stuff packed and called my boyfriend and told him what happened. He then called his mother, and she said that she would happily let me live with her and her son, my boyfriend. I gave my nieces and nephew my stuffed animals to take care of while I'm not there. My mother came back fuming, but didn't say a word other than, "I hope you're happy you're abandoning me just like your brother." I hugged her, told her I loved her, and left. I still kept contact with my dad, and my mom still tries to be a part of my life. Am I the a-hole for choosing to leave? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'm proud of you for leaving. I'm sure that it was still hard. You made the right choice, as that was a toxic and controlling environment. Your mother thought she could guilt you into whatever she wanted, but you proved to her that you are your own person and won't take it. Good. The comment about your brother leaving her too was both unnecessary and very telling for parenting if you aren't the first to leave. Based on the mom's comments about the brother and Opie's post, I think we can pretty accurately deduce which kid is the mom's golden child. The major flaw with giving ultimatums is that the person you are trying to control will choose to take the consequence. Opie's mother is being abusive. When you mistreat people, you reap what you sow. You are not the a-hole. Your mother is. Not the a-hole. The fact that the same thing happened with Opie's brother and the mom didn't learn a thing makes her double the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You left a toxic situation. Let's recap. 1. You prove you are financially responsible. Good. 2. You contribute in accordance to your means. You're not a freeloader. Good. 3. Your mother and your sister require a chore from you that costs you the job, aka your financial independence. 4. You find another job with lower pay. However, with fewer resources, you are still expected to contribute as much as before when your family had a hand in reducing your resources. 5. You finally draw a line, refusing free babysitting on the grounds that your body requires sleep. 6. Your mom responds to you finally addressing the issue with issuing an ultimatum. You took it, end of story. Either your mother is oblivious to how thin she was stretching you, or she's more into control than your personal growth. Don't go no contact, but don't go back either. You did well. Not the a-hole. Glad you left. You already lost a job because you had to watch the kids. But yet your mother still wants you to pay but risk losing your paycheck to watch your sister's kids? Why don't they bring the kids with them or pay for childcare? They should be paying you to watch the kids. Good on you for calling her bluff and leaving. Next story. Am I the a-hole for asking my mom when she's going to start prioritizing her kids? My 17 female mom had me fairly young, and as a result, I now have a 7-week-old brother. My mom thinks she's done parenting, so from the day she brought my brother home, I've been responsible for him pretty much. Now she's not pregnant anymore. She can go drink and smoke grass with her friends, and that's pretty much all she's been doing since he was born. Some nights, she doesn't even come home. I live in a country with paid maternity leave, luckily, so my mom is still getting paid for the time she's taking off, but she blows through it fairly fast. I've dealt with that one by getting shop brand everything, and I started cloth napping the baby so there's money for important things like his formula and clothes when they're needed. So this morning, I told my mom I needed money for the grocery shopping as we're low in everything, including formula and wipes. Normally I do the shopping on a Saturday because Sunday morning is hangover day, but there was a roadblock in my buzz route yesterday. Then my mom turned around and said she hasn't got any money, and that she spent it all last night. This was all it took to provoke me. I began to give out to her about everything. I told her that she's a horrible parent, and that the day I move out, I'm taking the baby with me and we're going no contact. But the line that set her off was, "When are you going to start prioritizing your children like a real parent?" This made her really angry. She went on a rant and called me insults, such as a-hole, brat, the c-word, the list goes on, and then told me to get lost. So I took my brother and went to a mate's. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I started cloth napping the baby. Normally I do the shopping on a Saturday. You sound like a mother. What that means is, A, you're a truly decent person for stepping up and taking care of this baby's needs. And B, your mother's an a-hole for putting you in that position. Don't think for a second you're any of the things she called you. I agree, except for the threat of taking the baby with her. While she may be doing all the work, OP is not the legal guardian. Sure, that could change with CPS, but that's not something to toss around in a heated argument. Not the a-hole. Your mother is a horrible parent. If there is a way to report her, I would. You should be worrying about school, friends, and enjoying your summer. Not raising an infant and worrying about nappies, wipes, and formula. That baby and you deserve better. This. OP, please leave ASAP and contact CPS, or whatever your country's equivalent for children's services is called, the second you can. Parentification is abuse, and your mom clearly expects you to pay for all her partying/messing around. I won't vote either way, as this is beyond a silly Reddit judgment. You need to get in contact with whatever form of social services you have in your country and save not only yourself, but your little brother. It's terrifying and will drastically change the course of your life. You're old enough to at least scrape by as you get back on your feet, but your little brother is not. Should he be left in her care, and the situation really is as dire as it sounds, you won't be able to help him when the hammer inevitably strikes and you leave the house. Imagine the mistreatment you must have gone through. Would you want him to go through that as well? Call someone, anyone, who knows of the government programs designed to help it protect young people in your position. And should said agency deem it really as drastic as it seems from your post, you'll end up with a better outcome than you would by staying with her. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for concealing my pregnancy from my family and not announcing until after I had given birth? I gave birth to my son in May. My pregnancy with him was not planned, though very much a highlight for my husband and me. The only thing was that I didn't want my family, mom, her husband, his kids, and his mom, to know. I was estranged from my mom for a number of years, and we had sort of reconciled a couple of months before the pandemic sent us into lockdown. Our relationship has been rocky since then, and I didn't want her trying to push past the let's see stage into me being her baby and her being grandma. She hurt me deeply. Not understand why. I struggled to cope with my dad's death when I was 9. He was sick for 2 years, had faded a lot in his last few months, and ended up very sick and in hospital for the final weeks of his life. It was traumatizing, and my dad was the stay-at-home parent with me before he got sick, so he and I spent a lot of time together and we were close. But my mom did her grieving when he was sick, and was able and ready to bounce back and start dating fast. Whereas I had nightmares, woke up crying, and often had panic attacks after his death. It pissed her off that babysitters would call her home from dates. And then when she got married and I was crying, It pissed her off even more because she had wanted me to keep watch of her husband's 2 kids at the time. It was another year passed before my grandparents were able to convince her I needed help, and this was 3 years after losing my dad. I was diagnosed with depression and trauma-related anxiety and started pretty intensive treatment. But even then, my mom showed no real empathy for me, and she was very cold about it all. But everyone in the house, my mom, her husband, his kids, and his mom, expected me to be happy and love how things were. My mom and I got into a fight when I was 17, because I chose to mark the anniversary of my dad's passing instead of celebrating her mother-in-law's retirement. And with that, I moved in with my grandparents and we didn't talk for many years. I did consider telling her about my pregnancy a few times, but I wasn't sure I could set boundaries with her and wanted to wait. But she found out 2 days after my son was born, and she was angry. She told me I denied the family the chance to be excited and plan for a new addition to the family, and that it was her and her husband's first grandchild, and I had no right to keep them in the dark for so long. He told me I was punishing my mom for being happy when I couldn't be. It made me question my decision to reconcile, but still I need to know. Where my actions are concerned, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Once again, she made your experience about herself. The only thing she should have said was, "Congratulations, what would you like for me to do?" I think from her reaction, you should clearly see that nothing has changed. I would close the door to that part of my life. Wishing you and your growing family the best. Thank you. I kept my mother in my life out of guilt and feeling that I owed her. I didn't owe that witch anything, and neither do you. She hurt you and doesn't care. Keep that vile woman away from that precious baby. You'll be a better mom for it. Not an a-hole. She did not have a right to know. She isn't entitled to anything from you. She should be appreciative that she found out it all. But it seems like she hasn't changed, and you may want to protect your child from her. That's where my thoughts were too. It's been a lot of bad history with us, and it looks like maybe it just can't work. Not even sure I truly wanted to, or if I was just going along to say. Either way, it's clear none of this is healthy for my son. Not an a-hole. It's not about her or your extended family. It's about you, your husband, and your baby. She's trying to make this about her when it's not. If she can't even attempt to see your point of view, then how much has really changed? Not really. I mean, yes, it was a conscious decision as an adult not to tell her, so maybe more can go on me. But it's very much like it was before. Down to her anger and a willingness to understand. You did what was best for you and your family, and that's what matters here. Don't take the blame as you did nothing wrong. If it helps, my mother-in-law tried to get into it with me saying some BS about grandparents' rights. I told her to take me to court then, and that she won't be seeing her grandson until she can respect my wishes. You're the mom now. You have the opportunity to be everything you wanted from your mom. Look out for your baby. You got this, OP. Thank you. I needed to hear that from someone not my husband. He's wonderful, but he also loves me, and I know he's probably biased in knowing I can do it. Your words mean more than my words here can express. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting my kids go with my mom and her boyfriend? My mom lives in Washington and I live in Kentucky, and my mom just drove across the country to visit my kids and meet her new granddaughter. She recently got into a relationship with this guy who I had not met until Thursday last week, and we had been flirting with the idea of my 2 oldest boys driving back with them. They were going to take their time driving back to Washington and see different sights along the way. My wife and I were not entirely comfortable with this idea since we had not met him, but we were just going to trust her judgment. While they were here in Kentucky, my mother-in-law said they could stay at her vacant house while they are working out of town. I know this guy likes to smoke grass, which isn't a huge deal, except my mother-in-law and father-in-law have a very strict no substances rule at their house. I very directly told my mom's boyfriend that they have one rule, no grass or any other Ds. He acted like it wasn't a big deal, and I reiterated no grass. The neighbor is a state trooper, and will call my in-laws or the police if he catches a whiff, so just don't do it. Then my mom tells me he smoked the very same night I told him about their rules. Originally, their plan was to wait until later in the week to drive back, but then I got a call from my mom saying they're planning to leave Monday. I tell her that I can't trust him, and that my kids will not be joining them on their trip back. When I explained to her why I'm not comfortable with them going back with her boyfriend, she cried and told me it was just a misunderstanding. I tell her it was not a misunderstanding. I was very clear on the one rule my mother-in-law has for her home. It basically said, screw you, I'm going to do what I want. I also told her no matter how silly any rules are, or how much you disagree with them, this is my mother-in-law's house, and the rules need to be respected if you're going to stay there. She's now super upset, and I feel terrible. Am I the a-hole? Your number one responsibility as a parent is to protect your children. The first time you meet this guy, he flouts a rule about smoking because it thinks it's a stupid rule. What about the other rules you have for your children? Your mother's feelings take a backseat to your children's well-being, not the a-hole. Just go for a walk. I think it may be a bit unreasonable to ask him to have absolutely none on him, but don't smoke in, near, around the house. Just take a stroll. Life isn't that hard. Obvious not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Why would you allow your children to go off with someone who smokes and doesn't respect your rules and boundaries? I understand that your mom is disappointed, but I think the well-being of your children comes first. I smoke, but never around when babysitting or around someone 14 or younger. If something happens, you're simply 3 to 4 seconds slower with every move you want to make. Not the a-hole. The only impression is given you is that you can't follow simple, logical rules put in place for safety. To add, it's insanely disrespectful to smoke in someone's house when they have clear rules about it. Why would you believe he is going to follow any of the ones that directly involve the kids? Or be respectful to them, your wishes, or even what your mother may have to say about their care? Your children. If she can't see that because of her relationship with this guy, that's not your fault. That's exactly what I thought. When I was questioning myself and my decision, I thought, I used to break rules I thought were stupid, but then I realized I did that as a teenager, not as an adult who respects other people, their property and rules.
Update. My dad is adding something to my food that makes me sick and now wants me to forgive him. Original post. For background, I do not live in a Western country. I, 25 male, began suffering from bloating and vomiting in December 2024. After 4 months of consulting 5 different physicians, including a gastroenterologist, undergoing 3 endoscopies, and doing multiple tests, I was finally diagnosed with Crohn's disease, with a stricture at the junction of the duodenum and jejunum. After the diagnosis, I discovered that I had become intolerant to rice and potatoes. My mom and grandmother understood the disease after I explained it to them, but my dad's opinion was that this was not a disease at all, and that it was all because you ate a lot of lemons 3 years ago. After completing the prescribed medications and avoiding my trigger foods, rice and potatoes, I went into remission. About 2 weeks ago, I had a flare-up that grew worse each day. My mom and I noticed that my dad was adding some kind of powder to the milk before I drank it. The milk's taste and smell didn't change, but we suspected he might also have been adding something to the salt and sugar in the kitchen. To be safe, I stayed at my grandmother's house for a few days. During that time, I had no symptoms, not even pain or bloating. Meanwhile, my mom threw away everything suspicious and bought new supplies. Since then, we have been very careful about locking everything in the kitchen and making sure only we have access. After doing this, I've felt better, but we've seen my dad trying to pry open the things we locked. There are 2 other incidents that bothered me, which may or may not be related. 1. Just 2 days before my flare-up, I told my family that I was accepted for a master's program in Europe. My dad and elder brother were against it. When I insisted I would go, my dad replied, "Something unexpected may happen and your plan may fail." 2. Before this recent flare-up, I once saw my dad doing something in the kitchen, which he never uses. Later, when I sipped the milk, it had a strong taste of rust. I threw it out immediately and didn't think much of it at the time. I originally asked about this on Crohn's disease subreddit about 10 days ago and intended to share here too, but couldn't. Since then, these events have happened. 1. I forgot to lock a jar of cookies in the cabinet, ate them the next day, and got sick again. 2. My mom's coffee has tasted strange multiple times, and she also got sick after drinking it. 3. My dad broke into the locked kitchen cabinet and the refrigerator. 4. We replaced everything and moved the supplies to my grandmother's home. 5. My mom and I now travel to my grandmother's home for every meal. 6. We suspect that my brother knows about this but is choosing to ignore it since he visited home and avoids eating anything there. We are taking careful steps to confirm all of this. I don't want to go into too much detail, but we are trying to gather solid evidence before making any moves. Please let me know if I'm overthinking or what steps I should take next. I feel unsafe and emotionally drained, but I want to make sure I'm not losing perspective. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. This is actually a criminal issue. I would get a nanny cam to prove it and get his butt arrested. Hell yeah, it is. Sabotage isn't a narc's wheelhouse as it is, but it's not unusual for them to take it to the point of goddamned big boy crime, including murder. If they've got an agenda and slash or they've suffered a narcissistic injury, then they really get into sicko mode. I don't think your dad is just a narc. I think he's a freaking psychopath who is poisoning you and your mom. I do not understand why you and your mother don't leave. Go stay with your grandma permanently. Move away and never look back. He could end up killing you. The line between narcissists and psychopathy is sometimes pretty thin, but deliberately causing physical harm is more psychopathic. A narcissist might feed you a food trigger, but they're more likely trying to prove that it's not actually an issue so they can lord it over you. Your suffering is an indirect result. A psychopath will poison you so you're too ill to leave. The fact that there are multiple poisoning targets is very psychopathic, as the mom is very unlikely to react to something like rice flour or a potato starch. You're not overreacting at all. You're doing everything I would do. Thanks for the reassurance. Now for the first update. I got into this Dream Masters program by my own effort in April, despite my health issues. The tuition for this program is actually very minimal, which is rare for international master's programs. I told everyone close to me, starting with my parents, elder brother, friends, close relatives, aunt and uncle, and some professors from my bachelor's program. My dad, 60 male, was initially open to me going there, but changed his decision soon after talking to my brother. He said he likely wouldn't be able to sponsor my master's. So I applied for a scholarship and was following up on it. I also applied for an education loan. My elder brother, 30 male, was totally against it, saying he didn't like it and even said, "Are you going to beg in that country after doing this degree?" My mom and relatives on her side, granny, aunt, uncle, were totally overjoyed and loved that I was able to get into this master's program. My professors and other professionals in my field said it was a great opportunity and that it would benefit my career. I was working through all the administrative processes and stuff by myself until today. My mom and relatives provided moral support during this time and also tried to explain to my dad and brother that this is a good opportunity for me. Yesterday, my brother showed up unannounced at our home and made my mom stay at my granny's home, stating that he and my dad wanted to talk to me alone. They told me I was wrong to inform my close relatives about this master's program and demanded an update on the process so far. I told them everything, including the education loan and scholarship I had applied for. They started nitpicking the course details, trying to find any fault in the program, but everything was well detailed and had no issues. Then they told me whatever I did was useless, and that I had done nothing in these 2 months. They told me I wouldn't realistically be getting the scholarship or the loan, nor did they have any money to spare for my studies. They made it clear that they won't help with any process further, but still want daily updates and need all the emails I receive related to the loan/scholarship/university forwarded to both of them. Instead, they want me to do a master's in the state next cycle/year. They told me to stop living in a dream and accused me of being selfish for not thinking of the family or anyone else. So, am I the a-hole for not giving updates or not letting them interfere in the process after this incident? For context, I was lucky to have completed my bachelor's with almost a full scholarship, with a few minor expenses covered by my dad. I had to move back to my parents' place, and the money I saved up after that was spent very recently on my medical expenses. I made it very clear that I wanted to do my master's in this field, The master's program I got into is not available anywhere nearby, not even in nearby states. Side note, there's also a separate and very serious situation happening at home that made me feel unsafe. I've made a separate post about that, so I won't go into it here. Not the a-hole. Your brother is trying to sabotage you, and he's convinced your father to side with him. They don't have your best interest at heart, for whatever reason. Maybe your brother feels jealous of you. Move forward with your plan. It's your life. Your father and brother have no business knowing what's going on if they're not going to help you. If you keep them informed, they will do everything in their power to prevent you from achieving your dream. In addition, make sure your credit is locked down. I would not put it past them to do something if they have access to it. Not the a-hole. I read your other health issue-related posting, and Geesley Creasley. Stop talking to them. I can't even believe you let them corner you in the house alone. You're not safe with them. They clearly don't have your best interest in mind. Yeah, I realized that too late, but I had some safety measures in hand during that night. But due to the incident, I was able to properly see that my brother knows about the other issue. Second update 2 months later. Hi everyone, I'm sorry it took me a while to update. I've been reading and replying to some comments, but I wanted to share what's happened since my last posts. What's happened since? My relatives say I should meet him to secure my inheritance, legally mine, because it could help me in the future. My brother is pestering my mom to get me to talk to him. My mom and I relocated without telling my dad or brother. I cut off all calls and messages from them. We couldn't gather much evidence except for a white powder in our plates and a microphone hidden under my mom's bedroom dresser. On the day we moved, I drank water from our house. 2 days later, I had bleeding from my nose and mouth. Blood tests showed that both my mom and I had elevated, almost identical levels of strontium and vanadium. Our family doctors said the bleeding wasn't from those metals, but likely from an anticoagulant toxin, possibly rat poison. I moved between friends' places to recover and took antidote for the anticoagulant poison. Since I moved, my scholarship and education loan were both canceled, and I'm almost certain it was through Dad's influence. My mom gave me her savings, which will nearly cover my degree. My dad has been telling relatives he's sad I'm not talking to him. My aunt and uncle, on my mom's side who know the truth, confronted him. He admitted the poisoning, but claimed it wasn't meant for me. They also asked why he wasn't financing my master's. He said he felt guilty and would fund it if I talked to him. My dad is calling and texting me now. I want to see you or talk one last time to understand my position. If not, you may never see me again. I will never forgive my dad. But the inheritance is significant and could make a huge difference in my life. I've spoken to lawyers and the police. My dad has ways of wriggling out of legal trouble. Do I just talk to him, get my part of the inheritance and then cut contact? Or is even that too dangerous to risk? Stick with the police. If the poisoning wasn't meant for you, that just means he admitted to trying to murder your mother. Do not engage with your father. I hope you have that in writing or recorded somewhere. It is an admission of guilt. Sadly, they didn't record the conversation. I'm tempted to call and record him admitting all that stuff, but as you put it, I value my mental peace more. That he wants to see you or talk one last time should be interpreted as he wants to see you for your last time on Earth. That inheritance isn't going to matter if you're murdered before you can spend it. The man poisoned you. He wants you gone. I never thought of it like that. I just thought he was emotionally blackmailing me by telling me he's going to die. He'll use that inheritance as a carrot for the rest of your days. Don't be tempted to play according to the rules of a man who tried to poison you. Narcs always play this game with potential future inheritance. They'll never, ever, ever actually give it to you though. They'll make you jump through hoops. They'll hold it over your head. They'll remind you that you aren't allowed to have thoughts and boundaries. Then they die, and you learn they spent it all already, decades ago. Or that they left it all to their favorite homeless rat charity. Anything but being a reasonable, supportive parent. Now for the last update. Just to clarify, I was considering talking to him over a voice call. I was never planning to meet him. Also, I'm in a different state, far away from him. Thanks for all your support and advice. Here's what happened the week following this post. I explained to my close family why I can't and won't ever talk to him in person. The comments were really helpful to get my point across. We all agreed that if he pesters my aunt's family again, they'll call me and I'll just say to his face that he poisoned me. And that's why I won't see him. Homan, Dad, called Brat brother and cried that he was wronged by us. Brother traveled to my home city, argued with my mom, granny, and aunt's family for 2 days. He again made it all about himself, saying, I didn't inform him this and he would have helped me to his best if he'd known. And me and my mom isolated him by not telling him this important incident. If you know, you know, from previous post. Brat told them that doctors didn't know anything about poisons and were exaggerating it, saying they probably didn't study properly in med school. He also tried to take a look at all the evidence we have, saying he wanted to know. They avoided it, saying everything's with me. Both Homan and Brat tried to give various reasons and find different ways to make me come home. Uncle called me that day, and as planned I told Homan calmly that he poisoned me and cut the call, as I didn't even want to talk to Brat. Homan acted as if nothing had happened before I revealed it, and continued to act innocent. After the call, Homan stated that he won't give me my part of the inheritance as I wrongfully accused him, just as many of you said in the comments. The very next day, Homan changed the locks to the house we lived in before, and my uncle somehow managed to get the clothes and stuff we left there. Homan has told multiple people to convince me to come home. I didn't falter in my resolve. Brat, however, has become silent and returned to his city. I was only able to give a summary of things. I'll post a detailed update after things settle down a bit on my side. Thanks again for all the support. It really helped me stay grounded. Last story. My son called me Dad for the first time yesterday, and no one else will ever know how much that broke me. I, 28 male, have been raising my nephew since he was 3 years old. My sister, his mom, struggled with drug addiction and eventually left him with me one night, saying she'd be back in a few hours. She never came back. At first, I thought she just needed space or time to clear her head, but as days turned into weeks, it became clear she wasn't going to return for him. His father was never in the picture, so it was just me. Child Protective Services eventually got involved. They told me they might have to place him in foster care, but I couldn't let that happen. I already had a tiny apartment and a steady job, so I fought to keep him. I filled out every form, went through every home check, and promised them I would be the one to raise him. They were skeptical at first since I was young and single, but in the end, they allowed me to keep him under my care. That was the hardest, most stressful fight of my life, but also the most important one. He's 7 now, and every day since then has been about making sure he feels safe and loved. I've always made sure he knew I wasn't his dad, just his uncle. I've been honest with him about that from the start because I never want him to feel lied to about where he came from. But I've also always told him that I love him more than anything. Every time he makes a card at school, Father's Day, my birthday, or just because, he writes, "To my uncle," or "You're the best uncle ever." And that has always been enough for me. I never wanted to replace his parents, only to give him the love and stability they couldn't. Yesterday, we were curled up on the couch watching a movie. It was one of those lazy evenings where he had his blanket, his stuffed dinosaur, and a bowl of popcorn that he barely touched before getting sleepy. Halfway through the film, he started nodding off against me. Just as he was drifting to sleep, he whispered, almost too quietly to hear, "Love you, Dad." I froze. He's never called me that before. I didn't correct him, didn't say a word, because I didn't want to wake him up. I just sat there, holding him against my chest, and felt the tears start rolling down my face. I cried quietly so he wouldn't hear, but in that moment, I felt like my heart could burst. I know I'll never really be his dad in the traditional sense. He may grow up one day and want to find his mom or learn about his biological father. I won't stand in his way if he does. But last night, for a few seconds, I felt like I was his whole world, the person he trusts, the one he feels safe enough to call Dad. That's a memory I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. You might not be his biological father, but for all intents and purposes, you are his dad. You're the one taking care of him, loving him, providing for him. You are an amazing dad. Exactly. My cousin raised his own 2 kids alongside the 2 he adopted from his drug addict brother. All 4 of them are treated the same. and all four call him dad, even though the adopted two know he's actually their uncle. Blood relations don't matter when it comes to being a good parent. You're his dad no matter what. A wise man once said, he may have been your father, boy, but he wasn't your daddy. You might not be one of the two people who brought him into the world, but you are raising him, showing him how the world works, giving him love. You are as much a father to him as you can be. His subconscious just told you exactly how he sees you and what you mean to him. Congratulations!